Okay. Good morning, Ria-Jaine. We are now live.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me today.
Well, you're welcome. So I just want to introduce Ria-Jaine to everybody that might be watching today. Ria-Jaine is an accountant and tax expert. She specialises in the barber industry. There are a lot of common questions that her clients are asking, and so we thought today we would go through them, and Ria can answer those questions and take more from the audience as we go. So the first question is, what support is available for sole traders and how do they access that?
Okay. So at the moment, the sole trader support was one of the last things that the government announced, and it also appears to be one of the later things that are going to be released in regards to the financial support. And what that is for those who have submitted a 18-19 tax return, you'll be eligible for this grant, and that will be 80% of your average profit. And it will be based on 3 years prior to 18-19 as well. But if you haven't got 3 years prior to that, then the government and HMRC will consider the years that you have got available. But the qualifying factor is you have to have submitted an 18-19 tax return. So there's a lot of debates at the moment, and there are some challenges for the newly self-employed businesses out there at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I guess the challenges around that, because they're not going to qualify for this grant, is that they now need to start looking at other options that are available to them, which could be in the way of universal credits or some of the loans that are available. Now, even though the grant is available to be paid to those who are registered in 18-19, there is going to be a delay because the whole system for the scheme to start running won't be ready until June, so payments won't be made. HMRC are going to be making contact with people. They've said mid-May, so people should start receiving contact from HMRC, and they'll be invited to make a claim through the gov.uk website. And then there's a few things that you need to consider as well to qualify. And if you have two jobs, so if you've got a part-time job where you're employed and then you do barbering, at the weekends or on the side part-time, if your sole trader earnings aren't more than 50% of your total income, so from both sources of income, then you won't be eligible for this as well. So there's a few things that needs to be considered, but gov.uk have got all the advice, on their pages, and it's getting updated daily. And the last update was made yesterday, which explains how they're going to calculate how much they're going to pay you.
And is that affected by whether you're part-time or not, or is it just simply based on the tax return?
So it'll be based on the tax return. So if you're part-time, as long as you've got profits that they can calculate an average from, then that will be fine. There is a cap. So if your profits are over 50,000, then you won't be eligible for this. So, if you are part-time and a sole trader, that is fine. The only difficulty comes in if you are employed as well as, being a sole trader, or if your combined income, if your sole trader income isn't more than 50% of your total earnings. So if you've got money coming from different sources, then you need to make sure, So, but if you're part-time in itself, that's fine, as long as there's profits to calculate.
And one of the other common questions that you're facing is, what does it really mean to furlough staff?
Yeah, this one's been coming up quite a lot because you've got two scenarios where you can furlough staff members. And so if you've got a team working with you and they're, your employees, and they get furloughed, that means that there's an adjustment in their contract, and it's so that you don't need to lay them off during this difficult time. So you can temporarily, take them out of the working environment so they don't have to do any work, but the government will then reimburse 80% of their salary. And the system for that is due to be available the 20th of April. We should have more information on that. The other conversations that I've been having around furlough is for directors or sole directors who are on a PAYE system. Now, directors can be furloughed, but the issue around that is you can't do any work. So I know during this time, people are putting social media posts up and trying to keep, the engagement up on their business pages. But if you're a director and you're furloughed, you should only be doing the statutory requirements. So that's, the company accounts and VAT returns and things like that, managing payroll. So that's one of the caveats with being furloughed. If you're a director, really think about if it is going to be beneficial. And it depends on what your marketing campaign is going to be over the next few weeks and how you want to engage with your customers as well, because you can't be seen to be trying to generate any income whilst you are furloughed. Also, to furlough people, you need to be on the PAYE system. So if you're a director and you don't pay yourself via payroll, you only take dividends, then unfortunately the dividends aren't included in the furlough process. So yeah, there's quite a lot of discussion on that at the moment.
And so is there anything for directors that only pay dividends?
It's really difficult, and I've seen articles on the 5% of business owners who have fallen through the cracks essentially, but there are the business grants that are available. So if you are eligible for the small business rates relief, then there's the £10,000 grant that is available. There is the universal credit system that the government has spoken about quite a lot. One thing I would say about universal credits, if anyone is going to apply, and if your household already receives a claim for working tax credits, then be mindful that it will replace the working tax element. So I know some people have tried to claim and then been surprised when their weekly working tax payment hasn't been made because they've been removed from that system. So essentially, if you don't give yourself a salary and you don't qualify for the furlough, it would be the business loans, the benefits that are available, and the business rates relief if you're eligible as well. The government have also spoken about the VAT deferrals, payment deferrals as well, and July payments on accounts and things like that. So their intention behind that is for people to use their VAT savings, just to get them through this time as well. So it really does depend what your position is and what your cash flow is, which options, would be best for you.
So what other support is available when it comes to the finances?
So we've got the Sybil's loan, so that's the business interruption loan. We've got the universal credits, as I've mentioned, but then that's only a temporary measure, because once your income goes back up, then your universal credits will go down. With universal credits, if people do apply, it is based on the household income. So if you've got a partner who works as well, they will take that into consideration. But with universal credits, they do offer an advance payment if you are eligible, and that can be paid, within a matter of hours if you do qualify. So the loans as well that I mentioned, I have tried to apply for some of those for some of my own clients, and I know the process is quite in depth. So they're asking for bank statements, previous year's accounts, management accounts up to the current month and things like that, as well as a business plan or an explanation of why you need to apply for the loan and how COVID-19 has affected your business. You also need to demonstrate that you have got a viable business, and it's only the loan, you need the loan just because of this current situation. It isn't an option for people who, maybe want to get a loan to invest in a new venture. You have to demonstrate that you have been affected by COVID-19.
And of course you have to pay it back.
Yes, and they did say it's interest free for the first few months, but there will be, you will have to pay it back. And I do urge everyone to think before, getting themselves into debt. There is also some things that you can do with your personal outgoings as well. So mortgage holidays, there's the 3-month mortgage holiday at the moment that the government did announce. And also with that as well, if you're coming to the end of a mortgage term and you're want to change rates, you need to speak to your mortgage provider about how that will impact you if you do choose to use the mortgage holiday. If you rent your property, your house that you live in, there's also a ban on evictions during this difficult time. So these are just some of the practical things that you can do outside of the business support as well to help your current situation. Go on.
One of the things that I've seen is that barbers are facing eviction from their shops from landlords. And is that ban extended to commercial properties?
I have seen a write-up on that. I will check and come back to you if that's okay, and I'll drop the link in the comments. Is that all right? Because I have seen a mention. I thought it was extended to commercial properties, but I am seeing a lot of discussions where it's still happening. So I want to check the guidance on that, and if I can get the legal and technical guidance, I'll share the link in the comments for everyone who's viewing, if that's okay.
And what other systems will help barbers navigate this time? Are there any other information, any places they can go online?
I think at the moment there's cash flow is really important. Obviously, we've got all the government support that's available. There is a timing delay with when you're going to receive that payment, which is some of the issue at the moment. It's great having the support if you are eligible, but for people waiting for furloughed payments, they haven't yet received their payment, for the March furlough staff members. If you're self-employed, you'll be getting your payment in June as well. So I think it's a really good time to think about your business processes and really reviewing your cash flow and seeing when all these pockets of cash are going to hit your account and how you can manage that and how you can plan for the next few weeks. I also think it's a good time to contact anyone that you've got any bills and direct debits with, if not already, and negotiate a payment holiday, and a cash flow exercise will help you with this, because it will show you what you can or can't afford and when you can afford it, and that will help give you a bit more control when you're negotiating these payment holidays, so that you know exactly the figure that you can offer and when you can do it, rather than calling up and saying I need help and trying to bargain with them. I also, there's time to pay arrangements at the moment as well with HMRC. So for July payments on account, they don't need to be paid until January, and VAT payments have been deferred as well. What I will say with that is, if anyone's got any direct debits set up to HMRC, to cancel those so that they don't automatically take the VAT payment, for example, because that's one of the glitches in the system at the moment. HMRC can't stop the direct debits that are set up. So do take control and make sure that's that's sorted out. And also, because we've come to the end of the 1920 tax year, it's a really good time to review your accounts for the tax year just passed, because if you've got a July payment on account, now's a good time to see if you can actually reduce that, even though it has been extended to January. If due to income going down, which it likely has, for quite a lot of people missing out on the March and start of April, you may be able to reduce the July payment on account, and it may accelerate a repayment of tax if you've then paid too much tax based on last year's accounts. I hope that makes sense.
So while we're waiting for any questions from viewers, are there any other processes that you recommend, just generally, not necessarily in this time, but for a rigorous approach to finances for barbershops?
Yeah, I think cash flow, as I've mentioned, is really important. And I think now, everything's going to change when we go back. We don't know how things are going to be, and we don't know if we're going to be moving to a cashless society as well. That's something that I'm trying to keep an eye on. People aren't accepting cash at the moment. So that to me says that it's a really good time for businesses to innovate and think about going digital, whether that's, with their processes, whether they get a bookkeeping software. I use a cash flow tool called Float, which links in with bookkeeping softwares, and it really helps plan ahead. Just to start thinking about building that safety net as well. Hopefully, we're not going to see another episode or pandemic like this again, but anything can happen. So it's just to start thinking about that safety net and protecting yourself and your business. Illness can happen, injury, you might need to move home or look after family members. So I do think it is a really good time to get all your processes in place so that you can see your financials at the click of a button. And if we are moving into a cashless society, then it is a really good time to start getting used to those processes, whether it's QuickBooks, some of the new Challenger bank accounts that they have as well, because I know a lot of sole traders use their own personal accounts for their business transactions, and it's a good time to start separating your business and personal income. Another point to add on that as well, some current accounts actually don't allow business activity. So if they see that it's happening, they can shut the account down. But a lot of people don't know that, because legally you don't have to have a separate business account as a sole trader. So it's a bit of a grey area there. But I do think just use this time to really, review your business structure, really think about your bookkeeping processes and how you can improve things going forward. If we do go to a cashless society, think about card machines that you're going to start using, and also just think about the time that you may need to start saving in the new climate, when we go back, we don't know whether there's going to be regulations, enforced, whether health and safety is going to have to be stepped up. Clients are going to be more aware of what's going on. So then we're going to have barbers needing to spend a bit more time managing that side of the business. So that's why I think it's really good to try and get the time savings now and set all your accountancy processes up online, cloud accountancy, and so that it's automated and working for you, because that will save a lot of time and help you to stay on top of your finances as well. Because I think this whole situation has really made people think about their finances and their financial position and how they're going to manage it going forward. So that would be my best advice as an accountant as well.
One of our viewers just said, thank you so much. The VAT direct debit has now been cancelled. So one question from Abra is, any news on whether insurance companies will help small businesses, and can the government put pressure on them, since we're still paying them?
Yeah, this is a really difficult one because the guidance is being updated all the time. I've seen some insurance providers have declined any claims, and then they've later gone on and changed their policies because the government did say that, the COVID-19 situation should be considered. So my best advice for that is to keep going back to them. So even if they said no last week or last month, keep going back and checking the website just to see if they update their policy and process, because it is something that the government have mentioned, and it is something that I have seen some insurance providers change their position on. So definitely go back and check. There has been some of the wording that's used in the insurance policies is quite tricky, because it says that if the pandemic had started in the salon, for example, then you'd be covered. But because it's a worldwide pandemic, you're not. But this guidance is just, it sounds bizarre. So I think keep in contact with your insurance providers and keep putting pressure on them to ask them what they are going to do about it. I can help find some links from gov.uk where they have put some information, and I'm happy to share in the comments.
Thank you.
Anything that I find, because then that will help when you're going to speak to the insurance providers as well. It's a new situation for everybody, even for myself as an accountant, navigating all the the new advice and guidance and the change in circumstance. It is quite a difficult process, so I can relate to the insurance companies on that side, because they're following their normal protocol, and now this has changed and they have to wait from guidance from elsewhere before they change all their policies. So I know that some of them are seeking legal advice and seeing what they can do, but just don't give up and keep trying. That's what I would say.
A question from Michelle is, I'm a sole trader with my own shop with no staff. Can I get the £10,000 grant for businesses?
Yes, so the £10,000 grant for businesses is completely separate to the sole trader grant, and you can get it at the same time. The only thing is you must be named on the business rates letters or account. You should be the one responsible for paying the business rates, or you should be the one who's named as receiving the business rates relief. The authorities will be getting in touch with people. So that was the guidance we were given to start, but some of the processes are changing. Some authorities have information on the website, some are emailing, some are sending out letters. So I would just check with the local authority to see if they have got you registered, or you need to speak with your landlord to see if the business rates are included in that, because they may then receive the business rates instead. And what I will say as well, if you do rent a premises and you're not named and you don't receive the grant, I would negotiate with the person who you are paying the rent to, negotiate a payment holiday, because if they are receiving the grant and you're not, then hopefully they could pay that forward, even if they give a small discount on some of the rent that's having to be paid.
Yeah, that's a good point. Revisiting the whole sort of cashless society or the cashless future, for a lot of your customers, tips are an important part of their income. How do you think that they're going to deal with that?
It is really difficult, and I think I'm not sure at this point how the tips works for some of the booking softwares that are available. If we are in a cashless society, you know, when we go back, that could be an option. That could be something that booking softwares are thinking about. You know, sometimes if you leave a restaurant or the card machines and they say, you know, do you want to add the tip and things like that, obviously everything will get tracked because it's all going into the business account, but then tips should be getting declared anyway, so it shouldn't change anything on that side of things as a business owner. But it's just about seeing whether the customer's behaviour is going to change if they are going to go that extra step to pay rather than handing over the cash and saying keep the change, kind of thing. So it'd be interesting to see how the customers behave, you know, when we go back.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much. We've answered all the questions that have come up in the feed. Are there any other issues that you're seeing from your customers, or have we covered everything?
I think we've covered quite a lot, because we've gone through the sole trader support, furloughed directors, you know, the loans, the grants. I think one thing that I would just urge everyone is just don't give up, you know, and do seek out these payment holidays. Every single direct debit that you've got, whether it's personal or business, sit down, you know, go through your bank account and see which people you've got direct debits with, ring every single one of them and ask them for a payment holiday, or just something during this difficult time. You'll be really surprised which companies are going to help. I've known, you know, some of my clients have got vehicles and their payments have been dropped down to £1 a month until this is over. Obviously it's added on at the end of their contract, but it's something, and it's a massive help during this time. So absolutely just go through and manage all of those outgoings and just review your cash flow. I'll put a link in the comments for the software that I use. It's called Flow, and it's actually free until the end of May because of the current situation. It is amazing, and you can go through and do different scenarios. So you can then look at what is the scenario if we go back to work in a month, in 2 months, what is the scenario if I have to work, you know, different hours, and if it's 1 in, 1 out. So it changes the numbers of customers that you're having come in. And there's like scenarios that you can plug in for when you receive these grants and other payments. So then you can plan how you're going to, you know, use this money, because you don't want to get to June as a sole trader, receive all that money and not have thought about the next 3 months. You know, you just panic a little bit, pay all the debts that have accrued, and then you're in the same position again. So absolutely go through all of that.
Actually, just to touch on that point, Chris has asked whether any universal credits payments will be asked to be repaid if they get their 80% from their returns.
No. And it says that, it says that on the government guidance. The only thing that will happen with the universal credits is the month that you receive the grant, then your universal credit may be affected, because it's based on the income you receive in that month. So it may reduce any amount that you normally get, but you'll have 3 months worth of, you know, income paid in a lump sum. So that should be okay. But they have made it very clear on the government website that you won't need to repay previous claims, you know, for the months leading up to it.
We get a lot of thanks for your expertise. So thank you so much for your time. If there are people that want to reach out to you, where should they go?
It's best to contact me on my email. It's info@riajaineaccounts.co.uk, and it's RIAJAINE accounts. The inbox is monitored all day, so that's the best way to get through to me, and then I can pick up any responses. But absolutely, if you've got any questions at all, or if you are thinking about going online, preparing for a cashless society, get in touch. I offer free consultation calls with people to find out the right softwares for them, or, you know, the right things that they can implement in their business going forward. So absolutely get in touch, anything at all, please.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, stay safe and stay well.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, Rachel.
All right, take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.